This crazy-ass movie starts in Buffalo, New York. It is totally stupid, but a great bit of fun if you are into the whole fun thing, like us here at Movie Ketchup. Stay to the end because we will have a little quiz to see who was paying attention, and the randomly picked winner will get a shout out in the next Ketchup Dollop. Back to the story, we hone in on a building with a squiddy-looking logo. Nurse Herbie East starts banging on the surgery door of Dr. Cate Thulu as we hear the sounds of assault and screams of a female patient. A blood-splattered Thulu comes out to pronounce that they have lost another patient, who she says was unworthy. Thulu admits to being an evil doctor and is working with the elder gods to find a perfect vessel. They then do the evil laugh in earshot of the waiting room. The next patient is having second thoughts. You think? We are introduced to Betty Downer, who is insecure about her breasts and takes many growth supplements like Melantech, Titify, Chestrix, Juggernaut, and a few other punny ones. She checks herself daily and has been continually disappointed, and to make things worse she is taunted and bullied. On her way to work, two obnoxious creeps are jeering at random women but totally look away when she passes. She works at the Double D Collection Agency, of all places. That's some epic writing there, where even her coworkers make fun of her flat chest, and her boss, Mr. Raquel, pays her scant attention and gets her name wrong but is mesmerized by her tight-bloused buxom coworker who he fawns over despite not doing her assignments. Betty has a friend in Tim who tries to make her laugh and brings her coffee. He invites her out that night, but she turns him down to spend time with Dutch. But Dutch decided to go on the lash with his buddies and shows up so late that Betty has already fallen asleep and their dinner has got cold. Then the asshole blames her for nagging him when she asks why. Dutch fires up the TV and an ad comes on for Plastic Surgeon of the Year, Dr. Thulu, with the tagline, "If you don't want to look like doo-doo, call Thulu." Then Betty starts to make out with him and suddenly gets excited, but it just turns out to be the vibrator on Dutch's phone. He immediately takes the call and says he needs to go be with his Sigma, then bolts as she offers to go with him. She kindly brings him his packed food only to hear him dunking on her boobs and planning a night at the strip club. That's it, she is done with this jerk. She talks with Dr. Foyne, a psychiatrist, who informs her that the idea that people are interested in her bust size is ridiculous and says that the only one concentrating on her breasts is her. They are then interrupted by his top-heavy secretary, and we see his office is hilariously full of Freudian messaging. At work on Monday, Betty dresses up to get the boss's attention and maybe help towards the promotion that is up for grabs. Tim is very complimentary and the boss seems to take note, but then tells her she has a huge disgusting mole on her forehead that she should get removed. He says he's only joking and then screws with her some more by saying she should just cover it up. Betty is done taking any more shit and heads down to Dr. Thulu's office for a consultation. Herbie is doing his usual slack job when a distraught Thulu comes in and falls to the waiting room floor crying about another failure. When she sees they have a prospective client, she exits the room and comes back cleaned up and looking like she hasn't been operating a slaughterhouse. The doctor cautions Betty not to take surgery lightly and insists that she is an artist more than a surgeon. She tells Betty that she will decide what Betty needs as Betty is too close to her perceived flaws. She asks Betty to strip down, but Betty ain't happy doing it in the waiting room. Thulu insists the door is locked and says,
"Would you take it off already? For the sake of the Dark One, come on, chop chop!"
Betty strips down only to have Nurse Herbie take some pics, which she uploads to flatties.com, the site where women look like boys. Thulu goes on to say she is perfect and then says there is one subtle procedure she needs. When Betty asks what, she says,
"Bigger boobs."
And how much she needs bigger tatas. Thulu and Herbie argue and Betty slips out, but Thulu knows that she will be back because she is the one. That night Betty has a very vivid dream where at work she is passed over for promotion. All the other women get promoted, but not only that, Tim and his new pair of hooters get the boss's job, and his first order of business is to fire Betty for being flat-chested. Next, we see Betty in her shrink's office where a wacky musical number breaks out called Fun Bags. I would be lying if I said there was a hidden message in there. It is basically a comical number about how great knockers are. She wakes up to hear Dutch complaining and contemplates her life. The next time we see Betty, she is being anesthetized by Cthulhu while Nurse Igor is trying to deal with a wild creature locked in a box. Cthulhu tells her not to worry as she slips into unconsciousness. Now that's got to be reassuring. After the operation, when Betty sees herself in the mirror, she laughs maniacally and totters off. Cthulhu and Herbie know they have done a great job, and Cthulhu says,
Mamar lives!
The next morning, Betty says hello to the twins and then bends her unneeded booby pills and completes her chest chart. The skibet perverts on the way to work are blown away by the new Betty, as are Tim and Mr. Raquel. As a show of appreciation, Mr. Raquel gives Betty a promotion to upper management and shows her to her new office. With Tim in her office, she talks about how her life has already changed and how she is being treated differently. She then asks him what he thinks and not to use the old inner beauty line. Tim says that he is a man, and yes, he gets aroused by them. Betty is happy because Dutch has much lower standards than Tim. She then topples over as she has still not got the hang of her new hangers. She then goes on to get some revenge on the office girls and uses the same line on them that they used on her. It feels good getting her own back. We are introduced to two cops in a diner. One has got 1 week to retirement and the other has a new bride at home and is trying for a child. One of them drinks to a long life. This all sounds very familiar, don't you think? That evening, Betty goes to visit Dutch, who is gobsmacked to see the new Betty, but he is still a knob and Betty isn't going to give up the goods yet. However, when Betty falls asleep on his grotty couch, he tries to grab a feel, but his offending hand is bitten off by something, which causes the cops to come to investigate. Dutch is carted off by some military-looking paramedics, while the cops believe Dutch's turtle snapped his hand off. The detectives from the diner are there and manage to live through the scene. Betty is free to go and is not under suspicion. When she gets home, she is met by a gypsy character called Madame Selena, who says she is in danger and gives her card for when she is ready to call. That night, though, Betty does a bit of somnambulation and heads out where she propositions the guys on the corner. They are both up for it, but Betty's new killer rack does them in one at a time. Betty wakes in the morning none the wiser. Tim visits Betty at work and she is surrounded by coffee and other gifts. She says that she is done with Dutch and will be going out with the work crew that night and is looking forward to being single again. Betty meets up with her workmates at a crappy-looking nightclub. There is a low-grade pickup artist hitting on every woman in the joint who keeps getting rejected. Tim tells the bartender he wants to go out with Betty but feels the time is not appropriate with her recent split up from Dutch, but the bartender says if you don't, someone will. Later, when the workmates have left the places getting empty and a sleepwalking Betty returns to pick up the sleazeball and takes him home where he is devoured by two mouths. The next morning she is woken by the cliché detectives who ask about the two pervs who disappeared earlier and the guy from the club who went missing last night. They don't get any useful info and the plot is no deeper, but a few jokes were played out. A freaked out Betty goes to see the gypsy fortune teller, who asks if she is a virgin. She tells a shocked Betty that she always asks that. Selena goes on to say that she senses a change in Betty and an evil murderous creature is within her. She reads her tarot cards and gets lots of pairs, even cards from different packs. She is mystified by the cards. Betty acts all innocent when asked what is going on. She is heading home when Sandra from work asks her to come to her place and chill in her hot tub. She flashes a bit of cleavage and says they have a lot in common. This sight of wobbly pale flesh puts Betty in a trance and the creature inside her takes over and accepts the offer. In the hot tub, Betty's demon says they should join forces as she has the qualities. Sandra gets her baps out for Betty, but Betty gets mad because she has been using whatever those rubber lift things are to fake it. She then pulls her t-shirt over Sandra's head and lets her jubblies go to work. The next thing she knows, she is at home in bed and covered in blood splatters. Betty is feeling out of sorts at work, and when Tim visits, she confesses she may have done something bad to Sandra. Tim informs her that Sandra left a message saying she is sick. When Betty listens, it is clearly a fake message that says she
and definitely not eaten by a hellish creature.
Betty shrugs it off. That evening, Tim takes out Betty to cheer her up after all the being possessed stuff. Betty starts making moves toward Tim and kisses him. Inside, Betty jumps on Tim, but he stops her and says he wants it to be special. Betty gets some wine and Tim confesses he got a reading from the gypsy who somehow knew he was a virgin, right? As soon as Betty hears the word virgin, the demon takes over and possesses her. She is about to kill Tim when she is snapped out of it by him saying he loves her. She quickly bundles him outside for his safety. Now knowing she is possessed or something, she goes to see Dr. Thulu, who has since turned Herbie into a proper hunchbacked Igor for stealing stationery. The doc is huffing gas when Betty comes in. She tells Betty that she has been waiting for her. She gives Betty an overly excited examination and kisses her. She then spills the beans and tells Betty that she serves Mamora, the elder god of darkness, and Betty was the perfect vessel for Mamora's spawn. Marmora gets stronger with every kill, but needs a virgin sacrifice to take Betty over completely. Betty runs on hearing this. She ends up at Double D Collections and tries to do some research on her predicament. Mr. Raquel is working late and starts talking to Betty about the reason she got promoted. He pours her a drink and says it was her attitude that got her the promotion, not anything else. He wastes some time while the roofies he spiked Betty with take hold. He then takes naked pics of her, but can't resist copping a feel and soon feels the wrath of Mamora's spawn. The climax of this tale of the killer rack is about to come to a head. A bunch of people are hanging around when a totally possessed Betty walks towards them with her killer boobs out. They start going to work and it's a bloodbath with bodies dropping and blood getting sprayed everywhere. The jugs are going ballistic with tentacles blasting out, picking people up, and throwing them. The detectives arrive and shoot at Betty, but the boobs just eat and fire the bullets back, hitting one of the detectives. Tim is on the scene and says he wants to see the real Betty before he will be the virgin sacrificed to Mamora. Betty takes over for a moment and says she loves Tim, then manages to tear the Lovecraftian demon spawn from her body. The demonic creatures make a run for it, but before they can get away she is able to pop them with an underwire bra, which sends silicon squirting everywhere. Tim and Betty kiss to celebrate their victory. Wow, what a movie, probably more stupid than funny but entertaining nonetheless. So let's get on with the quiz. If you know all three answers, just let us know in the comments. Don't put the actual answers though, just that you know them, and we will pick a random name on November 29th, 2022. The winner will get a shout out on one of our upcoming vids. First question, what is the name of the magazine in Dr. Thulu's waiting room? Second question, what is the name of the website Nurse Herbie was uploading Betty's pictures to? And finally, the third question, what is the name of the gypsy fortune teller? Good luck. Thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed this one. Peace out.